At exactly 0217 hours on March 31, 2026, the darkened harbor of Port Rashid, Dubai erupted. The Kuwaiti VLCC Al Salmi, a very large crude carrier loaded with 2 million barrels of crude, was struck by a fast-moving, unmanned explosive vessel. The contact appeared suddenly on radar, moving at 42 knots, with no eye signal, lights, or radio response. Within 11 seconds, the harbor master issued a warning before the USV detonated, ripping a 9-meter hole and igniting a massive fire. A towering column of black smoke rose, 800 meters into the sky over the Persian Gulf. Kuwait Petroleum Corporation immediately issued an oil spill alert as panic spread across maritime networks. On the Link 16 tactical network, the strike was not seen as random. It was identified as the calculated opening move of a larger Iranian escalation strategy. This operation was rooted in the doctrine of Rear Admiral Alaza Tangsiri. His long-developed strategy aimed to threaten global energy lifelines through asymmetric naval warfare. Tangsiri had fortified a chain of strategic islands across the Strait of Hormuz. These included Abu Musa, Greater Tumb, Lesser Tumb, Hengam, Keshem, Larak, and Hormuz. Each island was equipped with missile systems, drone swarms, and hardened bunkers. Together, they formed a deadly arch defense designed to deter any naval force from entering the strait. His objective was simple, but devastating. Make the cost of passage so high that no global power would risk it. By March 4th, Iran had effectively closed the Strait of Hormuz. In the weeks that followed, 15 vessels were attacked and 5 international mariners were killed. Despite massive U.S. and Israeli strikes degrading Iran's military capabilities, the doctrine remained active. Even after losing assets, Iran continued to project threat through decentralized tactics. What made the situation more chilling was this: Tangsiri was already dead. He had been killed 5 days earlier in a precise Israeli airstrike. The intelligence behind the strike came from both human and SIGINT sources. And his pre-programmed orders continued executing even after his death. The Al Salmi attack was not a spontaneous act. It was a dead man's command carried out by an automated doctrine. This revealed a harsh reality of modern warfare. Killing leadership does not eliminate strategy. Meanwhile, the global implications were rapidly escalating. The Strait of Hormuz, just 21 miles wide at its narrowest, carries about 20% of the world's oil supply. It is one of the most critical choke points in global trade. Beyond oil, it also handles massive volumes of LNG and agricultural inputs like fertilizer. Since the closure, Brent crude surged past $126 per barrel. Shipping routes collapsed, forcing vessels to reroute thousands of kilometers. Insurance markets froze and operational costs skyrocketed. Fuel prices surged globally, impacting economies within weeks. The agricultural sector also began to feel the pressure. Fertilizer prices rose sharply, threatening crop yields into 2027. This crisis demonstrated how a narrow waterway could disrupt global stability. Iran achieved this without directly confronting the U.S. Navy. The U.S. Navy, despite its power, could not simply enter the strait. Iran's layered missile systems created a high-risk denial zone. Missiles like NUR, C-802, and YJ-12 formed overlapping kill zones. Any naval movement risked overwhelming saturation attacks. This marked a shift in modern naval warfare. Shore-based defense systems had changed the balance of power. Instead of direct confrontation, the U.S. adopted a surgical strategy. Airstrikes began targeting key infrastructure across Iranian-controlled islands. Facilities on Abu Musa and the Tumd Islands were systematically destroyed. Missile sites, ports, and staging areas were neutralized. Each strike reduced Iran's ability to sustain its defense network. The campaign was precise, data-driven, and continuous. Simultaneously, the Pentagon considered deploying thousands of ground troops. This indicated preparations for a possible island seizure operation. Internally, Iran began to fracture after key leadership losses. Conflicting commands and secret negotiations emerged within its power structure. Bakhshanal talks through intermediaries suggested a possible shift, yet hardliners within the IRGC continued aggressive actions. Attacks on commercial vessels persisted as a warning. The message was clear: control of the strait was still contested. Meanwhile, global political pressure intensified. Dozens of nations began coordinating a response to restore maritime security. A deadline was set, April 6th, 8 p.m. Eastern. Failure to reopen the strait would trigger massive escalation. The stakes were enormous. Critical infrastructure across Iran could become targets. This crisis has already reshaped global markets. Energy, shipping, and agriculture are all feeling long-term effects. What happens next will redefine global deterrence. It's not just in the Middle East, but across every strategic waterway on Earth. The arch defense is weakening, but it is not yet broken. And the world is watching those 21 miles of water because everything depends on them.